Today on Mysterious Morsels, we're talking about mermaids. So, mermaids are an interesting and unique creature because obviously they're aquatic and they're typically, although there are mermen, mermaid implying it's a female, it's the upper body and head of a female and then a tail on the bottom part, so tail of a fish, and then mermen would be the same. So, merfolk, if you will, mer people. They appear in lots of different cultures throughout the world that are really just the European and Asian and African folklore tales of mermaids. So they all have their own rendition of it, and it's definitely a differentiation of opinion based on geography. So some people take it to mean that mermaids are perilous and dangerous and that they're foretelling storms or floods or shipwrecks or a drowning or even bringing them into the situation, whereas others think that it's a lucky turn of folk tradition to have a mermaid there and that it could bring you good luck or good sales or good fortune or treasure or something of that nature. And they're benevolent in many cases, and they would bestow gifts on people or possibly falling in love or guiding a sailor the right way. And then sometimes the idea of falling in love with a human. Where have you heard that before? We'll get back to that, but that's possible. The Western concept of a mermaid is really this beautiful, seductive singer, and it's kind of conflated throughout time with the sirens of Greek mythology, because sirens would sing, and there's a big influence there. So the conflation, I would like to think that the Greeks were first. The Greek mythology was first. So a siren, obviously a singer, a siren, obviously in English is, the idea of a noise. You think of a siren with a fire department, it sounds an alarm, if you will. Sirens in Greek mythology, and we'll talk about them another time, but they are generally trying to trap you. They usually had a malevolence about them. They would want to lure you in. You'd go see what was going on, and then, smash, and you would crash into rocks or be led away, kind of like a wisp, but this was a person. So the Greek gods and the Greek mythology of the idea of a siren, they would sing, and sometimes a siren, can be noisy, not necessarily a nice melodic thing. It could be a cacophony of yucky noise. But later on, as mermaids come into folklore and more of an aquatic thing, obviously because it's half of a fish, whereas the siren was a person, the whole fish idea, of course, is going to lend itself to water. So you see mariners and shipwrecks and things like that kind of going along with it. Or maybe in the case of Ariel, saving the shipwreck and bringing Eric to shore only to go back in the water and he doesn't know what happens. So that is an argument for the day as far as people conflating them. But there's obviously no evidence that they exist for real in case you were looking for one. But people report sightings all over the world to the present day. And there's actually, I don't know what it's called. It's not like the Coalition of Finding Mermaids or anything. I made that up. But there are people that are bent on believing that they exist and truly trying to prove their existence. I'd say take a number because the Loch Ness Monster's been trying to do that stuff for years. But what are you going to do? Mermaids show up in British folklore as unlucky omens, and in their case, it would foretell of some sort of disaster, but possibly provoke it as well. So sometimes it was considered a warning, and sometimes it was considered, provoking of something bad. They've been described as able to swim up rivers in freshwater as well, but I think least so comparative to where you hear about the oceans, and it was almost like a deep body of water that they had to be in. I guess they could hang out in a river, but for the most part, if you think of like Peter Pan, the mermaids are all hanging out on the rocks and they're in a big ship and Captain Hook's going after them in the middle of the ocean. So it's usually a deep dive, but supposedly there's freshwater mermaids as well. Kind of interesting that we could say that when there's not even mermaids, but I don't want to be, spoiler alert. They're generally beautiful women, and they can be portrayed as like a seductress that wants to take you off course or help you. But they're generally, at least the top half of them are generally beautiful women, and they're just really throughout the whole culture. It's been something that's embraced as there, or something else in the sea, no different than you could argue the Kraken or Poseidon or anything else like that. I think based on where you live, kind of talks about your thoughts of mermaids and whether they're good or bad. So it's, I say, continental. They have cases of people not just citing them, but trying to prove that they exist, and in doing so, I don't know what kind of scientific evidence they would be using, but they've had underwater things installed and cameras and stuff to try and find one or track one. But to my knowledge, not just yet. This all really started and was made famous by Hans Christian Andersen. So The Little Mermaid was his work. And, of course, Disney piggybacked onto that. So you've probably heard of it from Disney. But it started with Hans Christian Andersen, and he told the child story of The Little Mermaid. And then Disney went and made their own rendition of it. So even though it was massively popularized in pop culture through Disney, it was initially written, and the story is timeless. So obviously they scooped it up and did that. I would say that as far as current, besides the movies and reading Hans Christian Andersen's original work, there are maybe a little bit of a hype right now because of the re-release, or I should say the new release of the live action version. Although I have a live action mermaid, I'm still kind of fuzzy. But they have mermaid shows where you can see women in like a fishbowl or a tank or something swimming around and acting like mermaids or singing. Now, on a little kid level, I have seen no different than hiring a princess for the day, or getting a character where people have brought mermaids in to tell the story or dress in costume. Although mermaids gotta walk in the door, don't they? Yeah, I've seen them put their fins on afterwards, and they're not in the water, so by definition, aren't they at risk? I don't know. You be the judge. But they do have mermaid shows and little kids and stuff that would, if you want to have like a Princess Day or something. And Ariel's very popular and famous. And I would go on record, despite he not being of mer folk, and say, for the record, in my opinion, Prince Eric was the best looking prince there was. I just want to go on record saying that. If you look at some of the princes, there's nothing to write home about. I'm sorry. I don't know about you, but, Beauty and the Beast, I liked them better as the Beast. It was just a shame. Animated or real. Sorry, they missed the mark on that one. Nope, Eric's where it's at. I digress. Anyhow, that's Story of Mermaids. So if you like this type of content, scare the like button into turning blue and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks for watching. If you like to watch more content like this, then click on the video. Leave us a comment about what your favorite mythical creature is, or any that you would like to see.